Hey everybody, this is Jim Cobb from survivalweekly.com. We're going to do a Stumpless Stump review of the October 2017 issue of American Survival Guide. For you collectors out there, this is volume 6, issue 10 of the magazine. Full disclosure, I do write for American Survival Guide from time to time. I am not in this particular issue. The fact that I write for them should in no way, shape, or form be a reflection of or impact my review at all. I've been reading the magazine for far longer than I've been writing for them. I get every issue, I subscribe to it, whether I'm in it or not. I have yet to find an issue that, disappoints me. American Survival Guide is one of my favorite niche publications. Number one, because it comes out every month rather than, every 2 months or every 3 months or whatever. It's a monthly publication, and every issue is just jam-packed with really great information. Most of it is very practical, it's very common sense, it's very actionable. It's not stuff that's just, pie in the sky, head in the clouds stuff. This is information that you can use right now. We're going to go through, and I'm just going to talk about a few of the different articles in this particular issue that I liked. I'm not going to cover everything. We don't have time to do that. First thing I want to talk about is a feature that's in every issue is their new products. It's usually a 2 or 3 page spread where they highlight a dozen or so different products that it's called new products, but it's not always new stuff. It's, for example, in this month, they've got the Cold Steel Kukri machete. Now that's been around for a while. I have one. I love it. The Gerber dime has been around for a while. I have one of those and really enjoy it. It's not necessarily stuff that's brand new to the market, although some of it is, but it's also stuff that's been around for a while that, they recommend, that they've used, whoever assembles it this month. This month was Frank Warren. Every month it's usually somebody different. I've done 1 or 2 of them myself. It's products that the writer endorses. They stand behind them. They recommend them. It's right up front in the magazine. It's one of the first things I always look at because, let's face it, I like gear just as much as everybody else, and I want to see what's new and what is out there that I may have missed. The first actual article in this issue is "What is Your Plan B?" by Larry Schwartz. Larry Schwartz is one of my favorite writers for American Survival Guide. Everything he does is very common sense. It's very down to earth. It's very practical. It's not outlandish, goofy stuff. I mean, this is information you can use right now. The topic of this is how to respond when deadly force isn't the right answer. And this is something that I've talked about countless times myself, and I try to get through to people. Not every defense situation is going to require deadly force. And in fact, most of them probably won't. And that's important to understand. Larry goes through and he talks about, when deadly force is appropriate, when it's not, and what to do when it's not appropriate. He talks about things like martial arts and pepper spray, stun guns, and other less than lethal options. Again, it's very down to earth. This is common sense, everyday stuff, okay? Very well written, very informative. Next article I want to talk about is again by Larry Schwartz, coincidentally enough, Reducing the Risks of Riots. It seems like not a day goes by that we don't hear about some protest or some riot or some other civil disturbance that's injuring or even causing death. It's important to know how to recognize when things are about to go awry and what to do when that happens. And that's what Larry talks about here. He addresses, some red flags to look for, how to avoid it before it happens, and what to do if you're caught up in it. Next, we're going to talk about Bug Out Basics by Will Dabbs, MD. Will is another writer that when I see his name in the byline, I pay attention. Great information. He knows his stuff. He's proven that time and time again. In this article, Bug Out Basics, this is just a really great overview or introduction to the topic of putting together a bug out bag. If you have somebody who is new to the fold, so to speak, and they're looking for information on, how I want to put together a bug out bag. What should I have in it? This would be an excellent article to hand them and just say, here, read this. This is where we start, and then build off of that. Is Your Kit Up to the Test by Ruben Bolu, and if I butchered that name, I'm very sorry. Instructors like myself and John McCann and any of us, we try to stress that it isn't enough just to put together a kit. You need to test the kit. You need to take that kit out of the house and make sure that the contents are going to do what you need them to do when you need them to perform. And in this article, they talk about taking the kit outside, testing out the different components, talks a little bit about commercial kits versus homemade kits, and also a pretty good overview of what you should have in your kit and why. So many times we're presented with lists. You need to have this knife, and you need to have this folding knife, you need to have this fire starter, you need to have this type of water filter. Everybody's different. What works for one might not be the best solution for another. And in here, he doesn't talk about exactly what to have. He talks about the different categories of kit contents, and then it's up to you to fill in the blanks, so to speak, and find what works for you. Self-Defense 101 by Michael Dianga. And again, I'm sorry, I'm horrible with last names. In this article, and this is it's actually kind of a fun article, talks about different myths that are out there with regards to self-defense, and he dispels a lot of the myths, a lot of the rumors. Flashy techniques won't work. You can't defend against multiple attackers. Strength always wins out. These are things that you hear repeated, particularly on social media. They may or may not be true. And Michael goes through step by step, myth by myth, and explains yes or no, why and why not. Stay Sharp by Jerry Barber. A sharp knife is far less dangerous to you than a dull knife. With a dull knife or a dull tool, you exert more force to try to make that cut, and that increases the odds that you're going to slip and you're going to end up cutting yourself. The sharper your tool, the better off you are. Unfortunately, sharpening a blade or another tool is kind of a mystery to a lot of people. There have been all sorts of different gadgets and gizmos that you can buy to take home, and it's going to do this, that, and make your tool sharp. But you need to understand the actual concept of sharpening. You need to understand how it works, or how, better yet, how it's supposed to work. And in this article, they talk about step by step what sharpening should involve, how to do it. There's overviews of some different tools that are available, but really this is about the concept of sharpening. And this is a really great introduction to the topic, something that people can spend 30 years and never truly master. This is a great way to get a head start on it. Lastly, The Indispensable Survival Medic by my friend Joe Alton, MD, also known as Dr. Bones. Doc Bones and Nurse Amy are good friends of mine, and I don't say that as, yeah, I know them online and we've traded books. I mean, I've sat down and had dinner with these folks. I love them to death. They're really, really great people, and they're very knowledgeable about survival in general and survival medicine in particular. In this article, Joe talks about realistically what the survival medic is going to be presented with in a disaster. The different illnesses, the different injuries, and what to do about them. He also talks about the common mistakes that the survival medic makes and how to avoid them, what to do about them. It's really great information, and even if you are not the medic for your group, so to speak, it's important to understand these things. Nothing in here is beyond the average person in terms of being able to understand it. I mean, that's one of the things I really like about Joe and Amy. They take what are very complicated subjects. You know, when we talk about medicine, we're talking about science, we're talking about, you know, big words, and they really bring it down to a level that anybody can understand it easily and implement it properly. This was the October 2017 issue of American Survival Guide, Volume 6, Issue 10. Highly recommend American Survival Guide. In the comments, I'll put links to where you can subscribe to it. I find it, you know, out in the wild at Walmart, at different grocery stores, at Barnes & Noble, pretty much any place that has a newsstand, you'll find it. It's out there pretty much everywhere. Again, this was Jim from survivalweekly.com doing a Stumpless Stump review of American Survival Guide, October 2017.